The Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon is probably one of the most iconic cars that Mercedes ever made. If you thought it looked rugged before, wait until you see this. For 2017, they introduced this truck. I'm Nima from MVL Leasing, and this is a 2018 Mercedes-Benz G550 4x4 squared. Okay, before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that bell so you're notified anytime we release a video on any of the cars that we're reviewing. If you or somebody you know is in the market for a high-end or exotic car, you can hit our link in the top of the description. My email is there too. And don't forget to mention that you saw us on YouTube. This car was born in 1972 as a joint venture between Mercedes and what's known today as Magna. It was designed as a military service vehicle. Now, in 1979, actually the Shah of Iran came up with the bright idea to take that military vehicle and clad it in leather and other nice luxurious features. So you can thank him for the popularity of this car. The truck has retained its general boxy look from that original design. It's body on frame. Body on frame is one way to construct a vehicle where the frame of the car can actually be separated from the body. This is done for heavy duty and for ease of production, which is kind of a big deal when you're building a military vehicle. Now, in 2016, Mercedes shocked the world with what's known as the Mercedes-Benz 6x6, where they basically took a G-Wagon, they lifted it up, similar to the way this one is, and they actually added an axle in the back, so the car actually has two wheels in the back and one in the front. This was done based off of an Australian service vehicle that was then given the same treatment that the Shah asked for with the original G-Wagon military vehicle. That car was such a hit, everybody went crazy and people started to build these cars, but it technically wasn't a production vehicle. But based on the hype of that, Mercedes-Benz decided to make something that's a little bit more suitable, if you can call it that, for different markets around the world. And that's where the idea for the 4x4 square came from. All right, so I just want to point out a few important details. So a lot of the car is generally unchanged. You can tell just by looking at the top half minus this carbon fiber cowl that we're going to get to is that it's pretty much the same as your ordinary G-Wagon. But a couple important details I want to point out. It takes the front bumper from a G63, okay? So you have bigger air dams here that house these heat exchangers. The engine in this car is a 4-liter turbocharged V8 with about 416 horse. Plenty horsepower to get this huge truck moving, but this is from a G63. You got these nice chrome pieces here in the front bumper. This is normally where you would get that really popular bull bar that you see on G-Wagons. You can't really get them from, at least not from the factory on a 4x4 squared, but in place of those, you have these chrome trim pieces. Now, since this car is so huge and it's kind of designed to climb rocks and do a lot of off-roading, you're gonna notice a lot of heavy-duty details and components. One being this heavy-duty skid plate. This thing is really strong and helps protect the undercarriage of the engine because you have a lot of coolers here against anything that you may be trying to climb over. The one thing that helps an off-road vehicle perform its duty is what they call your entry angle. So the entry angle of this car is pretty steep, so this helps you kind of climb or get over anything that you need to get over without having to risk damaging your front bumper. This is why the front overhang is so short. So by raising the car, you are altering the entry angle and making it more conducive to off-roading. Okay, now one of the most prominent features of the 4x4 squared are your flared wheel arches. So relative to a regular G-Wagon, these are actually cut out a lot larger and they're flared out quite a bit. They're all made of carbon fiber and half of them is painted black. This particular truck is obsidian black. So on the carbon fiber wheel arch up until here, it's painted obsidian black, and here all the way to the edge is all exposed carbon fiber. It adds about another 6 inches to each side of the car. So you're gonna get used to the size when you're driving this thing because you're going to be taking wide turns so as you don't clip them. I remember one time we had one of these come in, somebody had enough balls to take this to a drive-through and they ended up smacking this on a cement column. I believe they're about $2,500 to replace, and you still have to paint them and everything like that. So be careful with those. Big wheels, okay? I think these are 35 or 37 inches. It doesn't look like it, but that's actually a 20-inch rim specific to this car. One heavy-duty element that I wanted to point out down here is that most cars are about 5 or 6 bolts. This one's 8. This is something that just comes with heavy-duty cars or service vehicles, things they're going to be seeing a lot of action, a lot of duty. The brakes, these are brakes are specific to the G550 4x4. They're made by a small German company called Movit, M-O-V-I-T. The rims have this really nice little badge here that say 4x4 squared. I think that's a nice touch. It's got a polished face and black on the inside of the spokes. All the calipers are red. Tires are made by Pirelli, they're Scorpion ATRs, and they're good enough for the street, and you know, they'll keep you out of a lot of trouble if you're in the jungle, but I've yet to see anyone take these things off-road. Now, one of the nicest features on these trucks is the suspension, and it's got twice as much suspension as your average car. So each corner actually has 2 shock absorbers. Suspension is provided by KW, and the springs that are fully exposed here are painted red just like the calipers, so they stand out a little bit. You have these adjustable collars at the top of your springs that you can adjust. Now this adjusts your spring rate. You have these reservoirs that are sticking off of your shock absorbers that help with your adjustable dampening. So you can kind of screw around with this stuff to adjust, the car adjusts the stiffness of the shock absorber, but you can adjust the spring rates by adjusting these collars. These are really expensive. You can't replace one, you gotta replace them in pairs. And we've seen them done before. Cars that have seen a lot of action, sometimes they start to leak a bit of fluid. All the ones on this truck are in fantastic shape. Really nice feature that kind of asks for a lot of attention. Okay, so from where you can see me right now, you can really get an idea of the size of this car. Now, I'm 6'1", and this car is probably about a full foot taller than me. And even if you're as tall as me, it's still a bit of a task to try to get in and out of the car, but we're gonna show you how we can do that in a sec. Because the truck is so big, where your mirrors are actually attached to the car, it actually has like a spacer in here that's probably about 2 inches in width. Now you need this because it's a little challenging to determine the proportions of the vehicle using these mirrors if they're kind of where they normally are, because you have to account for the flared wheel arches as well. The running board is even above my knee, so it takes a little bit of acrobatics to get in and out, but it's not that hard. G-Wagons are also known for their side exit exhaust. So you have these 2 exhausts that are pointing out right here just beneath your rear passenger door. Car's got a nice snarl. Sometimes you get a bit of snap, crackle, and pop depending if the car is tuned or not, but every time this car drives by, or even when you're driving with the window open, you can always hear the exhaust. It's a really nice feature, and it really it kind of adds to the whole engagement or the whole visceral feel of driving a beast like this. All the wheels are square, okay? So it's not staggered or anything like that. Like I mentioned before, you have 2 shocks per corner. So same thing goes back here. Internally ventilated and cross-filled rotors. Relatively small ones back here. The front ones are the ones that do the most work. One other feature that I kind of like about these trucks is that this mud flap is kind of integrated into your wheel arch. It doesn't hang and flap and look kind of stupid. It kind of just tucks in nicely like this and does a really good job. When you are raising a car like this almost a foot, you're raising the rear bumper, and where this rear bumper is situated will dictate if it conforms with crash safety and things like that in different markets around the world. So when you raise the car that much, you basically need to create a replacement for where cars would hit you in the event of a rear ending, and that's what this bar is for. This is made of stainless steel, and where it connects to the car is made of solid steel. This stuff is very, very strong. So think about it. If you're gonna rear end one of these cars, you're probably gonna be hitting the brakes, and the front of the car will probably do a nosedive. If this bar wasn't here, all of a sudden this G-Wagon's on top of you. Can't have that. So that's the purpose of that bar. Car or a truck that's this big, typically one thing that you'll notice on heavy duty pickup trucks, even in America, like work vehicles and stuff like that, is they have a series of lights just to help other drivers understand or kind of have an idea as to the proportions of the vehicle. So this one has 5 red lights, 3 at the top and 1 on each side. When you have a truck this big, it's useful to have, you know, a rear view camera to see what you're going to back over. So you have a fisheye camera that's actually at the top of the tailgate here, whereas other G-Wagons, it's kind of built into the door. But when you have something this big, the higher this camera is, the better you have an idea of your surroundings. So the G-Wagon kind of has one big tailgate that opens out sideways. So I'm just gonna open it like this. A lot of space in here. Door's nice and heavy. Almost feels like opening and closing a safe. So back here, you know, with this one being so tall, it's easy to kind of throw things in here. Now again, the car's body on frame. So this is in comparison to normal SUVs, which are unibody. So unibody, picture a car being put together like a puzzle. Whereas this car has a very heavy duty skeleton with the body put on top. Now, when you do that, this intrudes on interior space, and the trunk is one example of that. So you have these arches here that kind of come into your cargo space. These are kind of to house those giant wheels that I was showing you on the outside. You have cool lockable waterproof storage in here. You have your first aid kit, and you have these back seats. Now these go down, but you don't get a completely flat floor. It's not very luxurious, but it's something that comes with a G-Wagon. These doors, you really got to slam them. So the back door is probably the heaviest door, and it almost closes like a safe. Another really cool feature on these 4x4 squares is this carbon fiber cowl with these extra lights on them. The orange ones are on every time you turn on the car, and when you're driving at nighttime and low visibility, it kind of gives people an idea as to the proportions of the car. But you have these really nice LED lights up here that I want to point out to you guys. Now this doesn't have to be made out of carbon fiber, but it is, and I think it's a really nice touch. Unfortunately for the North American market, these lights do not function. There's ways to get around this. You have to buy, I think there's a wiring harness that you can buy in order to get these lights to work, but from the factory, they're deactivated. Probably because you're gonna be dazzling the people who are driving in front of you, and definitely blinding the people who are driving in an opposing direction. Off-road use only. Okay, so it's kind of hard to get in these cars, but I'm going to show you how I do it. One thing I wanted to mention is that what a lot of guys do is they get Brabus upgrades for this car, where there's a motorized running board that's attached here that kind of gives you an extra step. It's really convenient, but in this case we don't have it, and this is how I do it. So you open the door like this. I put one leg on here, I grab the steering wheel, and I just hoist myself in like this. Done. And now you're in the truck, and then the way you get out, you just kind of fall out. There's not a whole lot of stuff in here that would kind of let you know that you're in a 4x4 squared, except for a few key differences. One is you get the seats out of a G63, and you get a really nice Alcantara inlay with a quilted pattern. You got 4x4 squared badges built into the seats. Besides that, that's the only thing that really tells you that you're in a 4x4 squared. A couple neat features. Full gloss carbon fiber trim, so you have it around your climate control and your radio and your transmission selector lever, and you have little pieces on your door as well. The quilted Alcantara continues on the doors too. You have black Alcantara on the roof. Even your sunroof cover is nice Alcantara. Rugged features, heavy duty. I was mentioning there's a lot of things that this truck has. This is common to a lot of G-Wagons. One of my favorite ones is your windscreen actually has built-in defrosters. There's a button right here to activate those, and in the wintertime, snow comes off like butter. You have a button here that shows a picture of a shock absorber. It says Sport and Comf. This is the button that you can press to adjust the dampening on those shock absorbers I was showing you earlier. You have another button here that shows that you can toggle between S, M, and E. So E would be economy, S would be sport, and M would be manual. If you put it in manual, you need to use these steering wheel mounted aluminum shift paddles in order to bang through the gears. It's a 7-speed transmission. If you put it in sport, you can still, the car will decide when to change gears. Typically a lot later, it'll hold gears for you, things of that nature. E, for economy, it's just, or eco, whatever you want to call it, it's just going to change gears a lot sooner, and the car is going to be really, not very responsive. Everything tailored towards saving you gas, and this thing is thirsty, okay? I don't know if you can tell, but it's not very aerodynamic, and the tires are designed more for off-road use than on-road use. So when you're driving this car, you're so high up in the air. Aerodynamics, you have everything working against you. The truck's heavy, it's a big box. Your tires have high rolling resistance. In fact, if you're not on the gas, this thing just wants to come to a stop. I've driven many of these G-Wagons for extended periods of time as well, and every time I press the gas, all I got to do is let off the gas, and the car will slow down itself. It reminds me of my days when I used to ride sport bikes and stuff like that. Sometimes if you're going, depending on what speed you're going at, if you're tucked down on your motorcycle like this and you want to slow down, rather than pressing your actual brakes on the wheels, you just kind of expose your torso a bit and use your torso as an air brake on the motorcycle. With this truck, it's almost the same principle, where all I gotta do is let off the gas and the air will slow down the truck. Even that carbon fiber cowl that I pointed out to you guys, it's on the roof. I can even see the bottom of it. This almost works like an air scoop. It does the exact opposite of a spoiler. Air just collects there and slows this thing down. Even this windshield, when you look at it, it's almost completely upright. A lot of my customers who have G-Wagons are one big issue, I wouldn't call it an issue, but something you just need to not really be surprised at if you drive a G-Wagon is how much rock damage you're going to get to these windscreens. Think about it. If you're driving in a sedan or even say a Lambo and a rock is flicked at the car by a tire of the car in front of you, the angle of the windscreen actually deflects that rock. So sometimes you may not get any damage, you might just get a chip. This thing just takes the brunt of it. And sometimes you'll have one chip that just turns into a crack. Unfortunately, the only place you can get a windshield for a G-Wagon is Mercedes. And maybe that's a good thing, because these things need to be really strong. But just by virtue of the fact that it's almost upright, it can take the abuse, but it doesn't deflect rocks or anything. So we try to encourage a lot of our G-Wagon customers, it doesn't matter if it's a 4x4 or a regular one, to get windscreen protection film, because that stuff is about 10 microns thick, and any layer of protection that you can add would help, because to replace this windshield, I think is about $6,000, something like that. So it's not nice. And your insurance company will leave you out to dry if you keep making windshield claims. So they don't like it either. Every G-Wagon has these 3 buttons on top of right beneath your central screen here. And these are to lock your front diff, your transfer case, and your rear diff. This is for off-road use only. And they put a nice big yellow sticker here reminding you, do not use this on paved roads. This is meant to be used on dirt. Definitely not on no asphalt or anything like that. I remember when I was younger, I was working at Mercedes and somebody got the bright idea of screwing with these lockable diffs and transfer case on the street. Car had to be towed in, he fried his transfer case and destroyed his diffs. So it was a very expensive repair. I've never actually used them because I've never taken any of these off-road, but it's for off-road use only. And I don't know why you would ignore a giant yellow sticker that says specifically, don't put it on paved roads. So if you ask me, that guy deserved it. Okay, this G-Wagon, or any G-Wagon for that matter, of this era, when you're on this body, which was made until 2018, you're not winning any awards for passenger comfort. So this rear door is actually kind of small, doesn't open that wide. And when you got a 4x4 squared, it gives you the extra challenge of having to hoist yourself up in here. But there's a way to do it, and the way to do it is carefully, so you don't scratch this carbon fiber fender. What I normally do is I grab the post on the headrest for the driver, and I just pull myself in like this. There's not a lot of space back here. They did what they can when it comes to trying to increase that space, maybe mainly by putting these indentations in the seat in front of you, so at least somebody has their knees. I'm not a small guy, and I'm okay, you know, but my head's pretty close to the ceiling. And one thing I was explaining to you before is that when you're building a car that's body on frame, it intrudes into the passenger cabin, which is why, even though we're in an SUV, where the seat attaches to the floor, the floor itself is actually probably about 4 inches above where my feet are. So this makes the seat have to sit higher. And just based on where the connections are for the seat, you can't really move them back or anything like that, just because of the car's original design. So it's not bad, but it's not great. The only real comforts that your rear passengers have back here, you have your window switch, which is always top mounted, the way G-Wagons have always kind of been. I have heated seats, so my seat is heated, this one is heated. I don't believe the middle one is heated. And one thing I love that I hope German cars never get rid of are these ashtrays. So you just, you can ash your cigarettes in here, and you have a little piece here where you can kind of butt them out and do that. Even cars made today, I've seen in Germany, like Porsches, Mercedes, and BMWs, they have like a smoker's package. You have cup holders here on the ground. This was an afterthought, but you know what? It doesn't really intrude on any space or anything like that, but much needed, because the only other cup holder you have is something that looks kind of like a basketball net, and is attached to your transmission tunnel on the passenger side up front. One neat feature I forgot to point out, this is common to all G-Wagons, they all have this kind of indentation into the paneling that goes all along the length of the car. This is actually to indicate how deep the car can wade in water. So when you have a G550 4x4 squared, where the car is raised almost a foot, it can wade through considerably deep water, like higher than my waist. One really important thing that I wanted to point out on this truck that you probably wouldn't notice unless I point it out to you explicitly is what's called portal axles. So you'll notice that most trucks that you see, the differential and the axle shafts that, or the drive shafts that lead to each of those, the drive wheels, are directly or coincide with the center of the wheel. Now on this truck, it doesn't. So your differential and your drive shafts are actually all the way up here. Now they go over and go into your into the wheel here through this recirculating ball, which is the steering system, which I'll get into in a sec. And they're actually situated higher, but there's a gear set that does coincide with the center of the wheel that's just below that. Why do they do this? Because by doing it like this, you're able to situate your differential and your drive shafts a lot higher in the body of the truck. This allows you to climb over bigger obstacles and things like that. So they actually go in through that recirculating ball, and they work with the gears that are in the center of the wheel. The recirculating ball is an extremely old school form of steering. Now you'll notice that in a lot of modern cars that if you were to let's say take a 90-degree turn like at a red light, all you got to do is let go of the steering wheel and hit the accelerator, and the steering wheel will correct itself. Not on this guy. So if you're taking a turn, you need to be correcting the steering wheel yourself. You got to do that on a regular G-Wagon, and it's especially worse when you're in a truck that's as big as this. So if you never want to be tailgated and you want everybody to get out of your way, look no further than this German heap. I'm Nima from MVL Leasing. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment.